So the last big objective that we have been looking at is how we refresh the tools. And so I want to mention that on the AFPC Key Spouse website, there is a best practice repository for the Key Spouse program. So these best practices that you're sharing with each other in the chat or that you develop along your way as you build your expertise in the program, share those with us so that we can share them with everyone else as well. So do leverage that as a tool. We also have guides and templates available at the AFPC Key Spouse website, and then we'll talk about more in a moment here in a few minutes. So please utilize that as a resource. Okay, there are several works in progress that we have regarding the tools in the Key Spouse refresh. We have several strategic communication plans that we are working on. Again, one of the biggest concerns we've heard from Key Spouses is a lack of engagement with their commander or their command team. And so while we can't be at every installation, talking to every commander, trying to encourage them to make the Key Spouse program a priority, there are some things that we can do to help communicate the importance of the program. And so we have identified key campaigns throughout the year and key things that we can help to communicate how the Key Spouse program can help your units and your families by engaging them and leveraging them as an option. And so one of the things that we've included in our strategic communication plan to commanders is a memo. We hear that we really would like to have some more top-down support from the Key Spouse program. And General Brown and General Raymond, now General Saltzman, have been and have encouraged the Key Spouse program. I have up on the screen now an example of the last memo that went out. I believe it was at the end of 2021 when we had all the who's sign a memo to encourage our unit commanders to have a Key Spouse program and then to give us feedback. We can't fix what we don't know is broken. So we put in our StratCom plan to have this, to do this memo from the top. We have it annually. It might have to be biannually because it really is a lot of work. And what we want to do is have the memo with the survey. So we'll have a month where we push out the memo, and then we'll share those survey results, what we found, and then we'll share what we've done because of the feedback that we've received. And so if we do that, it's really a continuous process improvement as well, to have that top-down feedback, to get engagement and feedback, and then to share what we're doing with that feedback to engage or to help people want to engage and respond to surveys, to know that something is being done and seeing that there was production from that. We've heard a lot about, our the VOLAC. If you've heard about the VOLAC before, it is an option to have like a CAC-like card to use as a volunteer. It's been replaced with the NEATS program. We have the information on how you can utilize this program, so you can maybe get an email address, government email address, but we'll post that on the AFPC website as well. There is a lot that the commander has to do. Sometimes I think it needs funding to get the background check to use the program, and then there's paperwork and stuff. So we'll share that to make sure that you know that it's available, and if it's an option that you want to pursue, you'll have everything at your fingertips to be able to pursue it. I don't want to make any promises with this researching of domain names because it may never happen, but we do know that with the mobile military, there's issues with people knowing who their Key Spouses are because they relocate and they take the name of the Key Spouse program email with them. And so what we really want to have, if it's possible, is to have like 552 AMXS keyspouse.org or something like that. Again, we don't know if it's possible because it's going to cost money. And then it's also going to, we'll probably have to look at the PII situation and making sure we're protecting all of those things. But it is something that we're looking into to leverage, and hopefully it pans out, and we will let you know the progress and the process that we make on that. Updated guides and guidance is a big one that I want to talk on. Policy is what we do, right? That's our primary thing at HAF, is to write policy and to be able to give people guidance on programs. And so right now the guidance is in the Military and Family Readiness Center guidance. There's other guidance that is more volunteer, like that has more to do with volunteers. And so we're working with the legal team to see what makes the most sense to put more in policy and more to help commanders with official guidance on how to run a Key Spouse program. So we're working on that. Another thing that we're doing that I know that we have gotten a lot of feedback from on two sides of the coin. So we are going to, it is our intent to let commanders have and select whoever they deem appropriate as a Key Spouse. So that may be anyone they deem appropriate, right? It might be a uniform wearer within the unit. I know that a lot of current Key Spouses don't like that as an option. And I get it. But we also have Guard and Reserve components to think about, who have a very difficult time in getting a spouse to volunteer. And as long as the individual can meet those objectives and work towards the readiness, resources, and connectedness, we need to give commanders the flexibility to select who they need to have a successful program. Whoever is selected would still go through, it would have to be selected by the commander. We get questions on how they would be vetted. They would have to do the Key Spouse training, regardless of who it was. And so we think that thinking about the diverse Department of the Air Force that we have, giving commanders this flexibility will really help the Guard and Reserve components have successful Key Spouse programs. Sure, we'll get lots of questions on that, and we're ready for them. So ask away. The last thing is, the family contact information, by golly. So we talked with our legal team, and one of the ways that we will push in our StratCom plan and push out to you as options is that we have gotten verification that in the inbound surveys that our uniformed members have to wear or have to fill out with their contact information, commanders can include spouse information in that. They have applied consent to give their spouse contact information. We also have been advised that it would be helpful to tell those service members what they're signing up their spouse or family member, loved one for. And so we'll use the tools and templates that we have at our fingertips to help to say that, to make the initial connection with the Key Spouse. And so if the service member knows what they're giving the contact information for, not just maybe blanket contact them whenever you need to, but more of like, we are just going to make the connection with the Key Spouse so that they can connect you to resources and encourage you to engage when you need to, or then we think that will help get more contact information. So we'll push out more information on that as we roll out the changes in this program, or the updates to this program, and hope that helps to get and build family contact information. It's not the way or the best way, but we feel like it's maybe a little bit of headway into cracking the code to making sure that we can have a way to start collecting that information. Let me stop there. Let me make sure that I'm answering and addressing the questions that we've gotten in the chat. And then if we have time, I'll circle back, whoopsies, and look at some more things. So what do we got, Miss Denise?
Okay, so I want to say we have a lot of good comments. So guys, please make sure you're reading the chat because lots of good information in there. So one question is, what are the benefits of a key spouse attending booster club meetings?
So the connection, I would say, that is something that we've discussed in our, when we do the capstone event at the Military and Family Readiness Centers, is making a connection to that booster club so you know who to contact if and when you need somebody. So I would think that would be the most beneficial is you know the guy that you need to know, and you have some intel on if you know that they have $5,000 in their account and you just happen to be able to utilize 1,000 of it for whatever program that you want to have, then you are you just know it's available. So that would be the other benefit, is that you know it's available. So if other people have experience in working with booster clubs in the chat, please do share, but that would be my 2 cents, is knowing who you need to contact if you are looking for some funds, and knowing what kind of funds they may have available.
Okay, so our next question is, aside, oh no, let me go back to this one. Will there be a focus on installations where the majority of the workforce is civilian? Civilian workers deploy and go TDY, and often do as much as, sometimes more than, military members.
Mm-hmm. What's the question? How do we work with the civilian population?
Will there be a focus? Will there be
Yes.
a focus on installations with majority civilians?
So what our intent is, going back and looking at those objectives, is putting a playbook available for commanders and command teams to kind of pick and choose how they want to execute and get after those objectives. And so, like, seeing it in our heads, there could be a section for like heavy civilian populations, like this is how you could utilize and talk about readiness, and this is how you can connect with spouses and families, and this is how, like, give them the how-tos specific for that population in that playbook. So how it actually plays out depends on the commander or director, so if it's a civilian leader, really is going to utilize that. But we hope to equip them with the tools necessary to manage large civilian populations.
Yes, aside from commanders understanding the Key Spouse program, is there a plan in motion to educate the airmen on what the program is, so they may be more understanding about sharing their spouses info, encouraging engagement?
Yes, that is a population that we've addressed in our strategic communication plan, and what are the main ways that we can engage and interact with them, and what's the messaging that we should be sharing with them. So yes, it is a stakeholder population, and if they see the value in the Key Spouse program, we can anticipate that we would get more spouse interaction as well.
Okay, excellent. And there were some questions on VOLAC, but I think you answered those. So if she did not answer the questions were in the chat on VOLAC, please let us know, but I think you covered those, Andrea.
Okay, thanks. And like I said, we'll pop those up on are they already there, Denise, on the AFPC, the Key Spouse page, or do we need to put them there?
The slides are already there.
No, thank you. That's great. But also the guide on how to utilize the NEATS program.
Yes, the Key Spouse guide is there. It still references it as VOLAC, but it would be the same instructions, the same way you would access it. Yes, And we will
Okay,
make sure
we'll
we
just
up that
pull it
to
out.
state needs instead of VOLAC. Yes.
Perfect. And we'll just make sure we highlight that so you can easily can access it.
That is actually all I have since we're doing question and answer. Did you want to take,
I feel like
we
I'm
have
off the hook a
in
little
right
bit
now.
easy. Okay. Well, let me go back then and talk about the tool, the guides and updating the guidances. One thing that I didn't mention, because I wanted to make sure we had time for Q&A. I didn't mention that we have a communication log, right? So I don't know about you guys. And so we wouldn't even ask like an active duty member or an activated member, a Guard or Reserve member, to keep a log of the times that they've talked to people in the unit, right? Most of that is done like in email. And so some of the ideas for making updates are to encourage people to have conversations and then follow up with an email, and then giving the template of how to follow up with an email. So, and while keeping Privacy Act information in mind. So most conversations with the spouse, with the family population, you're not going to go into HIPAA violations and talk about, thank you for discussing your recent diagnosis of such and such. Like that's not normal, right? That's not a normal interaction. It could happen, but it's not an everyday kind of conversation. And so if we just build the templates of like how to follow up, hey, Andrea, it was great speaking with you today about, please remember the resources that we talked about below. List the resources. If you have any more issues, concerns, just need to talk, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, period. So if we give you those types of tools and that's your communication log, is like your email record, we're golden. And so those are the types of updates that we're making too, just to modernize the program a little bit, bring it into 2023. So we're not having to print out rosters of what was communicated when. You have an electronic log within your email as long as you're following PII guidances. I see some key spouse mentor questions. And I know that when we talked during the town hall, we were unsure of what a mentor would look like. And I think we're keeping it. So this has been our concern, that the key spouse mentor is optional. It's going to remain optional to have them officially appointed. The reason that we've had the mentor appointed is because we did not want a commander's spouse to be the de facto key spouse mentor, right? So if they had never participated or engaged in the key spouse program before because they didn't want to, they had other things and other initiatives and other interests, good. Keep on getting after what is of interest to you. And we did not want to make that new commander spouse feel like they had to serve as a key spouse mentor because they were married to the commander. And so we're keeping that mentor role and position, and we'll do a better job marketing in our marketing campaign that this is what the role of that mentor is, and this is why it exists, and this is why we have it, and this is who it can be. And so we'll market it better so that people understand why we have it, and the new command spouses don't feel obligated to serve as the mentor position because they happen to be married to the commander. All right.
Okay, Andrew, so there's a couple other questions. You want to take those?
Yep. Let's see.
Okay, so ethics rules really matter. Will training include ethics training?
Tell me more. Who asked that question? Ethics training on, tell me more about what your thoughts are on that, please. And you can come off mic if it's easier to discuss as well, or come on mic if it's easier to discuss.
Sure. When as far as ethics, I'm just talking about the boundaries. Someone had mentioned about soliciting for funds or trying to raise fundraising and all those kind of things. And I seem to always kind of in the back of my head when a lot of those questions begin, whether it be the Booster Club or somewhere else, or even in meetings, the ethics rules that apply to those situations.
Okay. Yes, as we build out, especially related to the funding piece, we can definitely make sure that it's included, like that ethics piece is included. Noting your name, ma'am, because we may reach out to you for some ideas and to run it by you to make sure we're hitting the high notes on what should be considered. So we'll include that in, especially that portion, the funding piece. All right.
Okay, so the other one is, are you changing our ability to ask for money, donations, and or to fundraise?
No, we are not. And it's because of the way that we, Miss Barker from the Texas Air National Guard, if you're on the line, I'm calling you out, and I'm sorry for calling you out because you always ask great questions. She pointed out there's a difference between a gratuitous, and there's two types of volunteers. And because you are, and we have a legal, our legal professional is spelling out what the differences of those two are. So I'm not going to do that here tonight because I am not legal. But essentially, the key spouse is an extension of the command team by appointment. Therefore, just like I can't fundraise in my official capacity, either can you. And so, no, and we don't, no. And we looked at what the Army FRGs are doing and the Navy Ombudsman are doing. And we don't think that it is in the best interest for the Department of the Air Force and what the objectives of the Key Spouse program are to levy that responsibility on our spouses who are volunteers, because we don't want you to be the stuckies of just getting the funds. We want you to be focused on the family. And so, no, there's not going to be any changes in key spouses having the ability to fundraise.
Okay, and then the last one I have is, what are the guidelines for how many key spouses should a squadron have per number of members?
I don't know. I think that's a good question. I don't have, I guess, a good answer on what I think should be done. I guess it depends on the needs that are outlined by the commander. So I'll take that for consideration. And if anybody else has any good standards or ratios that you've established within their units, please share. I know that we've had in our key spouse panels before, people share how they broke down the units by last name, or like officer to officer, enlisted to enlisted, like they've shared how that breakdown works. So if you have any tips, please do share in the chat.
Hey, Andrea, you have a hand raised by Stacy.
Miss Stacy, take it away.
Yes, Andrea. So I saw in the chat, and this rather infuriates me, that apparently some spouses are being told they can't be mentors based on their husband's rank. Can we please, I know this is probably something that has been an issue for a very long time, and we've been in 25 years. Is there any way we can push this somehow, that if they've got the experience, let them be a mentor spouse, please?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. We can make sure that we update that, and as we roll out the new guidances, we can make sure that we update that, because that is uncool. Yes. Thank you for sharing that. I don't even know that I knew that that was an issue. So I appreciate you guys for bringing that to our attention.
Well, I had commented to two spouses who said that in the chat. So it's right there near the end of the chat that they had said they weren't allowed to be based on their husband's rank. So I just thought, I'll bring it up in person.
Thank you. I appreciate you all. for raising that. All right. We'll
There's
go
also another hand raised from Eileen.
Yep, we'll answer Eileen's question and then we'll transition into the toolkit discussion, and then we'll answer more questions at the end. So Miss Eileen?
I'm sorry, it took me a little while to understand this. Hi to everyone. Thank you for answering our questions. I have a question. Right now I'm volunteering at IAFA, International American Academy, and it's a lot of partner nations active members from different countries. Are we allowed to provide them with the same opportunities as our members supporting the spouses? Because they're not from this country, but they're partner nations working with us in the United States.
Sure, yes, ma'am. So I don't see why, as long as the resources that you were providing them were applicable to them, because I know some are limited for certain populations, but there's no restrictions in like connecting them to resources, connecting them with each other. And then, yeah, so I would use your own judgment as to what was shared with them just based on applicability to that population. But there's no restriction on not including them in the program. So if you think that it's going to be beneficial for your community and your unit to share with them and include them as you see fit, go for it. I'll continue to monitor the questions that come into the chat, but I want to give enough time to Laura. So I'll stop sharing my screen so that we can bring up the toolkit. And Miss Denise, if you want to do your introduction for Miss Laura, who will talk all about the toolkit, turn it over to you.
All right. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We are very fortunate tonight, as Andrea mentioned earlier, to have Miss Laura Browning here with us. She is from the Thrive team, and she is willing to share a great resource and tool that she has with all of us. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Miss Browning, and you can share your screen with us and take it away.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Let me get my screen shared. All right. So first, I want to say thank you to AFPC and Andrea and A1S for inviting us to be here to talk about this today. I'm excited to show you some resources that we think will help you guys as key spouses do all the important work that you do. I am Laura Browning, as they already mentioned, and I'm here representing the Thrive team. We're just a small group of volunteer spouses who work to improve the quality of life for families in the deaf. And we consolidate resources, we highlight preventative measures, share best practices, we foster community partnerships, and promote the exceptional value of the military spouse, all of you. Excuse me. So we know as key spouses, it's our job to connect with our families, and more so to connect our families with the resources that they need to thrive. It's not our job to be the experts on all those resources, but we do need to know where to go to get them. So today I'm going to share a few resources that the Thrive team has made in partnership with other spouses and subject matter experts that we hope serve as an easy place for you all to go when one of your families is in need. So the first resource I'm going to tell you guys about is the Key Spouse Toolkit. So it was made by the Thrive team with the help of some Air Force and Space Force spouses. It's currently available at 5andthrive.org. If you have not been to that website, you need to go and bookmark it because it has a lot of great resources on it too. And I will go over that after the toolkit. This toolkit will also be available on AFPC's Key Spouse website soon. So it is currently a Google Drive folder or document on the 5 and Thrive landing page. So it's not accessible on government computers, but once it's up on AFPC's website, that will be accessible on government computers. So the first page in the Key Spouse Program Toolkit is how to use the Key Spouse Program Toolkit. It has a table of contents where you can click links to certain sections of the toolkit. The next section is breaking down things like how to become a key spouse, or which is up here, how to become key spouse. You have to, get with your commander, and breaks all of that down. And then the next page is building a new program, because we all know that we've arrived at units and bases where there may not have been a program running at all. So this kind of breaks down the process to get that started back up if you ever need to do that. The next part I want to show you is some of the templates that we've created. And I want to start by saying we know that a lot of you are experienced mentors or just key spouses who have already created these types of things and templates for yourselves. There's no obligation to use these specific ones. Keep using yours because they're probably good, if not better, than these. So we just wanted to provide something so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel if you don't already have something. This is especially helpful for mentors to give to your key spouses or to new key spouses. This specific template here is a key spouse contact form, and we've made two. One is written as if it's from the key spouse. So you could hand this out at events that you're at, and it sounds like it's coming from the key spouse requesting information. But we also have another one that we have rephrased to sound like it's coming from leadership. So you could ask a commander to send this out to their unit to collect spouse information. And then these sections here, you can right click and replace an image of like your squadron logo or key spouse logo if you have one of those for your specific unit. Those were the contact forms. Hold on, my Zoom window is blocking me. Okay. This is my favorite template that we created. So this is a really cool section where you can replace images here with your key spouse team and give a little blurb about them, their contact information. But then we also created one that is for the leadership team so that people know who are leading the unit and who to connect with if they need to, like your commander. I wouldn't suggest putting their phone number or email address because you don't want people directly connecting with the commander, but you can include first shirts or senior enlisted leaders. And you can even, for our program, I put the key spouse mentor here as part of the leadership team. Next, I'm going to show you some of the places that you can find resources when you hear of quality of life issues within your units. So both the Five and Thrive landing page and the Thrive Guide are collections of resources that we've put together that can help your families with all the different quality of life issues that they may face or challenges that they may face. I'm sorry, let me go to the homepage here. So this is fiveandthrive.org. Here is where you're going to find the Key Spouse Toolkit. You just click here to download. We all have a ton of resources. Here you'll find resources in childcare, education, healthcare, housing, and spouse employment. Those are the top 5 quality of life issues that military families face. And that's based off of so many studies and surveys that have gone out with Blue Star Families and all kinds of other organizations like that. We also have a bank of checklists for deployment, moving, having just been married, having a new baby, a lot of childcare and school programs too, as well as EFMP. And then below that, you'll find some guides that have been put out by the Air Force or other organizations with helpful information. Down here is another one from Stars and Stripes. They have a plethora of guides on different locations or entrepreneurship. They have a lot, and you can get even more, I'm sure, on their website. We are on the SITREP, which is found on the Five and Thrive landing page. It is a letter from Miss Brown every month that breaks down the top 5 quality of life issues in those categories. There are clickable links that you can access all of the new and up-to-date information in any of those categories. There's always a recommended reading or listening section, but those can always be found on the Five and Thrive landing page. And I'm going to try and switch back to a different tab and we'll see what happens. Okay, the next part of the landing page that I want to show you are spouse stories, where you can submit your own story. There are a bunch of stories in here from spouses that have submitted stories or have submitted stories from other spouses that they know are doing big things in these quality of life, helping other families. So I recommend that you all go on here and submit your own story and see it come up on 5andthrive.org. You can also submit cover photos for the Thrive Guide. And this is a great place to find the Thrive Guide because this link here is updated live, which is really cool because all our resources are ever changing, right? So this gets updated live as things get reported to us that they need to be changed. Down here at the bottom, you can download the PDF version, you can download a printable booklet version, and we even have a QR code created that you can download and send digitally, or you can print and cut, like there's 8 per page. You can print and cut those and hand them out. Within the Thrive Guide, I'm going to try and switch pages again. We'll see if it likes that. You'll see how to use the Thrive Guide. It's broken down in all these different sections. You'll also see how to connect operationally with your unit. And then you'll also see a 5 and Thrive section where we have pretty encompassing list of the resources within those 5 quality of life challenge categories. And these are also active links you can click. And the cool part about this is when you click this, it will pop open another page so you don't lose your place when you're coming back to the Thrive Guide. Another thing that I like to show people is that on your phone or on your computer, you can use the search feature to type in something that you're looking for. So you don't have to leaf through the whole document. You can say mental health. Good stuff. And then you can find all the occurrences of mental health within the Thrive Guide. It's not letting me. That's okay. Usually it works. There's other sections in here like DEERS. This is within the military life section. There's rank structures, OPSEC and PERSEC. One of my favorite sections is the installation list, and then military terms and acronyms. So when your significant other comes home and is spouting off all the acronyms to you, you can literally go look and use that search feature and find them. All right, let's see if this will search now. So see here, if I'm searching mental health, it tells me it's occurred 15 times in the document. So I can look through and see that. Let's go back up and see where else it. Cohen Veterans Network, Given Hour, 988 Suicide Crisis Lifeline. And then the last one that it pops up is TRICARE. Oh. The last one that pops up here is the Air Force Employee Assistance Program. And that is referenced on page 22 in the Thrive Guide. In the portion of the Thrive Guide, that is the civilian addendum. So we just recently added this resource after working closely with civilian employees and their spouses to collect resources that pertain specifically to them. And we're looking to create a reserve and guard addendums too. So to sum all this up, we believe that you as key spouses play one of the most important roles in supporting families. So what you do not only gives your families the connections and the resources they need to thrive, but in doing so, it directly impacts the resilience, readiness, and retention of the Air and Space Force. So thank you all so much for volunteering your time and talents to do this important work. And we hope that these resources are helpful to you in doing that important work. So thank you, Andrea, and everyone at AFPC and A1S for your support and taking time to refresh the program and for asking us to share these resources.
Thank you, Ms. Browning. That was great. I just want to know if we had any questions for you before we let you go and we move on. Do we have any questions?
I just saw lots of feedback that saying that this is great, this is awesome.
Yes.
So we really appreciate you, Laura, and the Thrive team for putting this together and for sharing it today.
Absolutely.
I'm going back through this chat. I'm sorry, my screen died mid.
So I want to say that we will have the toolkit up, like you said, on the AFPC page. We are just trying to get it in the right format so it can be usable and everybody can download that. We do currently have the Thrive Guide posted on the AFPC Key Spouse page, but we will be getting the toolkit up there very soon. I'm hoping by the end of the week, if not sooner.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Laura.
ma'am.
And thank you, Denise. Appreciate you both for sharing with us. We are about to wrap up. I want to keep us on time, but I will stay after to answer any questions for those of you who have questions that are unanswered. But before we close, I want to turn it back over to our esteemed senior spouse leaders, Mrs. Brown and Mrs. Gagnon, to close us out and give us some closing remarks. So Mrs. Brown and Mrs. Gagnon, over to you.
Hey, thank you, Andrea. And over to Laura, that was absolutely fantastic. There were a couple of features you were able to demonstrate that I didn't even know that was going on the page. So thank you for demonstrating all of that for us. But I just wanted to mention, hey, I value all these opportunities to be able to interact with you and hear this feedback because, the feedback is critical. Oftentimes I say, I would like to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly, because if we don't know what the ugly looks like, we can't address it. But I do ask that you would be a little respectful with presenting the ugly. No one wants to be totally bombarded by all the ugly, but still, we do want to hear it from you. So, but back to Laura again, a big thank you for that, from my Thrive team as a part of the 5 and Thrive initiative, who introduced the guide today and have been so instrumental in the creation of tools and templates to enable success for our key spouses. I'm so grateful for your time, talent, and energy. It's amazing. And so as strong and committed and interested leaders with the Key Spouse program, it's your feedback that has driven the program updates. So keep those thoughts coming, and don't forget to submit your best practices on the AFPC Key Spouse webpage. As I mentioned in the beginning, I hope this engagement has served as encouragement with efforts happening behind the scenes to make the Key Spouse program a more valuable resource for our modern military and all units across the DAF. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Gagnon to have the last word, but thank you all so much. And over to you, Joanne.
Thank you all for your time and attention this evening, or for us evening, could be morning for you. For those who put the event on together tonight, your efforts are really appreciated. The efforts of the 5 and Thrive team, I know a couple of people who are participated in that, and that has been a labor of love for quite a long time. And it truly is an amazing thing that they have put together to help the key spouses in their roles. I want to thank all of the key spouses who continue to work hard for the betterment of our units and the betterment of our families. I know sometimes it's a frustrating process, but we appreciate all of your efforts. I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate your feedback and the ideas and the thoughts and the criticisms, and know that we hear you. Know that your family's well-being and yours is a top priority for the Air Force and the Space Force leadership. We want people to be happy with their commitment to serving their nation for as long as they choose to do that. And if it's 4 years or 10 years or 24 years or over 30 years, we want it to be a positive experience for the whole family. And that is a roller coaster, and the path that we choose to be on for this, it's a difficult one. So thank you for stepping up and helping try and make it better for the families, so that we can continue to protect our great nation. So I hope you all have a wonderful day or a wonderful night. And thank you for letting me participate today, because I was very excited to see all of the updates that we have, and for a chance to connect with the key spouses that we were able to tonight. That's it. Thank you.
Hey, Andrea, if it's possible, Tiffany has a question. She has her hand raised. I'm assuming it's a question, but do you mind if we let her engage there for a bit?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, just a quick question, and it's a lot to type, so it'll take me forever. I've sat in on other meetings, and is the goal still to launch the new program in January of 2024? With that launch, are all current key spouses going to be required to take new training? Or is it going to just be tied into like a quarterly that's offered throughout the year, or a refresh, or whatever it may be?
So the goal, first question, the goal still is to launch everything the 1st of January, but to release like the updates, like what we can expect along the way through those strategic messaging. So it's not going to be like, surprise, January 1, now this is what you got to do. So it's the process will be transparent. Another thing that I forgot to mention is that we're working on a timeline so that we can share that on the AFPC Key Spouse website as well, so that we can show you the progress that we're making. And if we miss milestones, there's some accountability there, and we'll say that, yeah, we wanted to have this done by this date, but now it's going to take 2 more weeks or another month or whatever. So we'll show that. And then secondly, to the second part of your question, we don't want the key spouses, the current key spouses, to have to fully retake any training. We'll make that available, as I think that it's something that key spouses will want to see. And then we'll break out the sections that are new and make them available in separate like chunks and modules. For example, the funding piece is going to be new. It's not been done before. And so we'll push those out as trainings to take. We haven't rolled out just exactly how we're going to do that yet, but it is on our to-do list to make sure we're sharing what that rollout plan looks like and what current key spouses can expect to take as training and how to do it.
Okay, thank you. I just had a few key spouses ask if they should just wait and do the training in January, or if they'd have to redo it, and I didn't know what to tell them. I was like, I don't think we're all gonna have to redo training, but let me check.
Yeah, go ahead and tell them to get it done, ma'am. Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to formally close out. I don't want to keep anybody past time, but I will stay on the line to answer any questions. So I appreciate you all for being here today and for providing feedback. Like Mrs. Brown said, we like to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly, because if we don't know, we don't know to even address it. So please keep the feedback coming. Please continue to engage with us. Please give us your feedback, and we will work together to make this program beneficial for our service members and families. So thank you all for being here today, and we will stay on the line to answer questions.